Hi everyone, I'm Gabrielle and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 on making a jacket from 1897, and I do recommend that if you haven't watched part 1, go check that out first before you continue watching this. I will include a link down below so you can go check that out. Now, for this jacket, I also need to show you what fabrics I'm going to use. So that is up first. And for this jacket, I will be using this. Now I'm going to try and make sure that you can actually see what it is. Let's see if it, here you go. Okay, so it is sort of like a coral color. I'm not sure if that translates well in the video. It reminds me of file, which is a fabric that used to be made completely out of silk, and it has like these ribs on it. Nowadays it's often made of cotton or some polyester ones, and I did a burn test on mine. It seems to be mostly cotton, but I do feel there's some synthetic fibers in there. Oh, and in case you don't know, you can do a burn test on your fabrics. Please cut off a small part before you do that. Do not set your fabric on fire. And it's often smart to do it outside so your house doesn't smell like burnt fabric. But you can burn it, and that will show you what kind of materials are in your fabric. So it does help if you want to figure out how to use it or wash it, or if it's going to be suitable for your project. I found this nice cotton, and this is a pure cotton, so whenever I do use this for linings, I like using natural fibers because it feels a lot nicer on your skin than when you're using synthetic fibers, because they make you feel very sweaty. So yeah, always good to pick good linings. And then inside the collar, I'll be using this fabric, which is kind of like a horsehair, but not as like loosely woven. I have no clue what it is. I might have to do another burn test on it. But yes, it's very like stiff, as you can see. So this is definitely going to help the collar stay up a bit more. And then that cotton lining is going to be mostly for the sleeves because they're quite large. And I do have some nice glazed cotton, which is going to be enough for the body of the jacket, just not for the sleeves. So just going to do a combination of, you know, using up my stash. And it looks very similar to a lot of the fabrics that were used in these Victorian jackets and bodices. Now, often tarlatan was used. I've never had tarlatan, but I'm definitely going to do some research on where I can find it. So whenever I'm going to make a bodice, I can actually use tarlatan, because from what I've heard, it's a very nice fabric to work with. And, you know, it's very historically authentic. That's all the fabrics. Now, on to the next. Before I start sewing, I always like to explain a bit about what I'm doing so that when I'm doing it, you don't have a million questions and don't realize what's happening. So first, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the construction of Victorian clothes. So the construction of Victorian garments is very different than how we construct our clothes nowadays. I have checked a lot of extant garments, and most of them were flat-lined, which means that instead of adding a lining when you're done and attaching it to the collar and the waist, you kind of use lining and upper fabric as one layer and just work with it that way. So like over here, you can see in my jacket, the lining has been added later on, but in Victorian jackets, I will show you a picture. You can see that they actually did it very differently. Now, the pro side of this is when you need to make alterations to it, it's a lot easier than with this. Like here, I would need to unpick the entire lining just to get to the seams. Whilst with the Victorian garments, you can just unpick a seam, get it fixed, and you're done. Now, next thing to do is I need to start cutting my fabric. So let's go do that. First, I need to go make some space on the floor because my table is not big enough. So let's go. In the meantime, I have ironed my fabric and got my lovely fiance to help me out in putting it all straight on the floor. I've also copied my sleeve and my collar patterns just to make it easier to fit it on the fabric and make sure I'm using little fabric as possible so I can save some for our next project. Also, after I have cut all the fabrics, because like I've told you before, everything's going to be used as one layer, so the lining and the upper fabric. So I have these nice and colorful threads, which I'll be using for the basting. And I always use different colors so I can make sure everything stays visible at all times. So now that I have cut all my fabrics, it is time to start basting them together. Basting is basically using large stitches to secure 2 layers of fabric together. It means that they're not moving around when you're assembling the garment. And that's how easy it is. So I'm going to do a few more of these basting stitches on the sides and the front, do the same to this piece, and then do the same to all the other pieces that need linings attached to them. So that's going to take a while, but I will be back as soon as I'm done, and then we can actually start assembling this thing. Okay, so all my fabric layers are basted together, so now it's time to start assembling. So as you can see, I'm back in my sewing room. Here I have my 2 front pieces, and the first thing I need to do is I need to sew in the darts at the front. And to do this, I'm first going to hand sew them together before actually sewing them together, just to make sure they're not moving around and they're going to be as precise as possible. So I will zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So here I have my one front part. And as you can see, here are the little threads that I used to mark my dart onto the fabric. Now if you are missing a few, you can always use some chalk just to fill up the lines if you just want to make sure that you're sewing right. Now we're going to start here at the point, and I'm going to insert my lovely yellow basting thread like so, and then follow this line. And then make sure that when you're pulling it through, you're not pulling it through all the way. Just leave some. You'll need it later. And then you go across, making a stitch, following the line again. Like this. And then you keep zigzagging until you're all the way at the end. And then last stitch. Okay, take the needle out. And then we'll have a small magic trick. So what you do is you grab both sides, and then you start pulling the thread carefully. Don't pull it too hard because this is basting thread, so it will snap on you. And then you have a nicely basted dart. And then on the inside, this is why I always tell people to use contrasting colors, you will have a guideline to sew on. So later on you can make it super nice and neat. And I'm going to take out all these colored tacking threads. But yeah, this is how I like doing darts. Obviously, I don't always do it this way because, you know, it takes longer than just trying to sew it. But when I'm making a garment like this and I really do not want to unpick things like 100 times, I will try and do it this way. But yeah, for now it's time to start sewing these darts, and then we can start on the side seams and the shoulder seams. Pull it away and clip it as well. Now I will tie both of these ends, and then it's ready to be ironed. So it is going to hold its shape nicely, but as you can see, it's already doing a pretty good job. Line. Iron your notches. You can always trim these seams later. So. The main part of the jacket is done. Oh wait, I'm stuck with my ring. Okay. It is done. It is starting to look like a jacket, so I'm very happy. I am wondering, do let me know in the comments what color you think this is, because to me it is a coral, but for some reason on my screen it seems more like a hot pink. But yes, do let me know. Also, it is time to work on sleeves. Now the sleeve is a gathered sleeve, and in order to do that I'm going to make 2 lines of stitches so I can pull it into gathers and then sew it in. Sounds simple, but it's probably going to take me a while, so I'll be fast forwarding through this so you do not have to hang around YouTube all day just to see me make some gathers. My first sleeve is in, so time for an in-between fitting, just to check if whatever I fixed on the sleeve is correct now and it looks better. Also, I do not want to put in the other sleeve and then realize it doesn't fit and then I have to redo it. So, quick try on. Also, I'm just doing this in my normal day clothes because I do not want to put on my corset for every little thing because it takes time to put it on. So, for now, quick fitting like this. So I'm loving the fabric so much. And as you can see, sleeves look a lot better. And it is nice and stiff, so I think that if I put some like shoulder support in there, it's actually going to stick out even more. Like, look at this. So cool. Okay, well, ready for sleeve number 2. Sleeve number 2. I got 2 sleeves. Okay, as you can tell, I love my sleeves. But if you watched my previous video, you know I love dramatic sleeves. Okay, I'll just stop dancing and start working on my collar. So for my collar, I have my basted layers of the color that I've already prepared. So I'll be sewing these together, and then I'm sewing the other top layer on it and then turning inside out and hoping magic's happening. You guys, she's almost done. Almost done. Almost ready for all the dramatic sleeve action. But in order to get all ready for that, I still need to finish all of the edges, and I need to sew in the collar and the sleeves permanently with my sewing machine. So I am going to get to that. For now, lots more sewing to come, and stay tuned for the final reveal. And she is all done. Oh, I love it so much. Oh yes, I definitely have to replace this. So for now, I have this clip on here, but it's not strong enough to actually keep the jacket closed for my dramatic shenanigans. So I will have to replace that later if I find a nicer one and a stronger one. But for now, this will do. Oh, look at this cool sleeve. All of the dramatic sleeve action. So yes, I am very happy with this. I will definitely wear this with my Victorian dresses to come. But for now, I'm just going to wear it around the house because I can and just be dramatic all day. But yes, I am so happy that you guys joined me on this journey into Victorian sewing. There will be plenty more videos to come because I still do not have enough to go outside in full Victorian wear. So plenty more sewing to come. If you want to know when those videos are coming up, make sure to like and subscribe so you know when I am diving into a new project. But for now, I'm just going to be dancing around the house.